Now, everybody loves to talk about fatherless behavior because it's just so commonly seen in our society today. But nobody ever mentions motherlessness, or specifically what happens when a child is deprived of that loving, healthy relationship with their mother during their formative years. And that is what we will be discussing today. I, as your host, Remnant, hope to clearly illuminate this matter for you as we cover the role the mother plays out and how lacking this affects the child in question. And we'll also be including my opinion on what we should do about this. Though keep in mind, I am no professional in this area, and this is simply my opinion. Let's begin. But I know there'll be some people who click away immediately upon hearing this. I apologize for that, but we cannot ignore this. That being the role the mother plays out is that of the nurturer for the child. This is required for the child, especially during those formative years being from ages 1 to 4. And children today, they are lacking this. I was actually watching an interview with Gabor Morte, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he mentions that when it comes to tribes, they commonly carry around their children for much longer extended periods of time than we do in the West. And today in the West, we simply lack this. And this is especially important when you take into account that this relationship that the child has is later referenced to when they have future relationships. Hence why it is so vital. But also shout out to Professor Ghost. He helped me a lot with the information for this video because I walked into this not really knowing much about it. And he actually helped to explain the importance and the significance of this role, especially if you take into account that this cannot be as well outsourced to other people. The mother should be the nurturer for the child. Now, people will reference back to how in a survival situation, like let's say you're in a tribe, the mother is going to be bearing children, and before and after pregnancy, they're immobile, they cannot be working. So things like hunting is just out of the question for them. But my argument does not lie in that. You see, the reason why I believe it is so important that the mother takes up this role as the nurturer during the ages of 1 to 4 is because upon giving birth, the mother releases a large amount of oxytocin in her body, that allowing her to really connect and really love her child. This will create a far deeper relationship and emotion between the mother and the child than, say, the father and the child, or a distant relative and the child. Hence, I believe it's by design that we are supposed to operate this way. However, it can be outsourced to people who aren't specifically the biological mother or simply blood related, but it is not optimal in my opinion. It's certainly better to have somebody fill in that role even if they aren't the biological mother, but I don't believe it is as effective, but certainly better, no doubt. Just not optimal. But now that we understand the role of the nurturer and how it is one of the first relationships that you will have and one of the most deep ones, we can cover what happens when a child lacks this. And it was honestly kind of challenging to find this information. Let's say, for example, you're looking into fatherlessness. You want to understand how this impacts the child specifically. That is relatively easy to find. But when it comes to motherlessness, this is actually pretty rare, statistically speaking. Reason being because if a woman gets pregnant and it's outside of marriage, she will automatically keep the child. And when it comes to divorce cases, usually by law, it is automatically given to the mother. Hence, you would think statistical data is kind of a challenge, but there's one other thing you can reference to. Those being the orphans.
Hello, Lawrence. Do you want to come with me? He remains stiff and remote, not even looking at the person holding him. He wants something. He doesn't know what. He doesn't mind being put back to bed. Here or there, what does it matter? This little girl, though she looks happy, like Lawrence, doesn't look at the person nursing her. It seems impossible to make contact. Toys do not attract these children. On the contrary, the offer of toys or games distresses them. If approached, they shrink into themselves, like this boy. If touched or encouraged to walk, he throws himself on his stomach. He cannot bear to be touched. Monica is the same. Come with me. Come on, try. And yet Monica can walk, provided she is not asked to. Monica is quite indifferent to the other children. She never plays or associates with them. These games, used as tests, are usually great fun for children, whereas Monica is frightened. It is quite unusual that she even handles the bricks. A little difficulty, and she is discouraged completely. After which she refuses all activity. She is quite prostrate.
From this, we can clearly see that there are many effects from lacking the love of the nurturer during the formative years. Many of the negative effects observed are lack of eye contact, lack of physical contact, and the inability to create bonds and relationships, and the lack of will to persevere through struggles and challenges. It's honestly heartbreaking to see in these videos. They are emotionally impaired, unable to create relationships, and are antisocial. And them not making eye contact, in my opinion, is really relevant, because from what I understand, this says two things about them. Either A, they were not trained through practice or simply being instructed by their parents how to properly interact with people, or B, they simply don't desire to create those deeper relationships or bonds with people. And I'm sure this is the case with other things like, say, for physical contact. But also, many will overlook this fact, but I think it's pretty significant. When it comes to these single mother households, usually what happens is that they're working a job. They need to take care of the children, obviously. Now, statistically speaking, about a quarter of the mothers are unemployed. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that a quarter of these mothers are staying home and they're trying to raise their children, leaving roughly about 70% that are out at work. But of that percentage in 2021, 81% of employed mothers with children ages 6 to 17 worked full-time, while 77% of mothers with children under the ages of 6 worked full-time. Wow, that makes the situation when it comes to fatherless behavior even worse, because when you look at those statistics, it isn't simply that they lack a father. They lack both parents. She's not even there to fulfill her role as the nurturer. She's outsourcing it to the daycares, to the public schools. I don't think that's healthy or an adequate substitute. Though back to the matter of fatherless statistics, I think it's important to walk away with one thing specifically. This is the most important thing. It is that you should look at these fatherless statistics, look at them, and understand. This is not simply caused due to the fact that they were raised without fathers, but also much of those children are without mothers too. They're absent mothers. They're working jobs and they're not able to fulfill either role. Now, I'm kind of all over the place right now, but again, let me repeat the point. Look at the fatherless statistics and understand that is both fatherless and motherlessness. And as for healing this problem, I think one of the best things that you can do is that if you grew up without a present father and a mother in your life, the best thing you can do is try and find healthy, good relationships with other people that you trust, especially with relatives if you have any. But also friends can work and be useful also, but they're less stable. They're more likely to betray you and backstab you, and they don't have that value for you as, say, family. They don't care as much. That's just life usually. And you should try and seek out these relationships to fill that void that's in you. Because at the end of the day, you were designed to have a mother and a father. And if that's empty, well, you should try and fill it the best you can, even though it's not going to be perfect. We should just accept that. But also, I'm not a professional on this matter, and I don't have a complete view on all of these things. One thing you could do, though, I would highly recommend you to do, is to find people who grew up in similar situations as you did and figure out how they handled it, how they coped with it, and how they healed the issue. In fact, if you're one of those people watching right now, feel free to leave a comment down below in the video so that maybe you could help some other people who are wondering or struggling with this exact same thing. If you've actually gone through this and been able to heal this, you might know better than me on this. I hope all of this information helps you. It's sadly inconclusive, relatively speaking, but there was enough information that I discovered about this that I frankly thought it was worth making a video about this, but I might make another part updating this later in the future. Though I hope the information provided on here helps to at least give a better understanding of this issue. But before you go, I want to give a shout out to all of the people who are really loyal and supporting the videos. I really see all of you. I see the same people constantly commenting, giving their critiques, their opinions, and in general, just words of support. I really appreciate it, my friends. And if you really enjoy this channel, all I can say is keep on doing that. The comments genuinely do help me out tons. But also, if you want to help out the videos even more, it would mean a lot if you could share this with people who could find this information useful, or would just be generally interested in it. That would really help this channel to grow. But again, I really appreciate the comments. I'm reading them constantly, and it means a lot like you wouldn't believe. Thank you so much. As for those who are joining us for the first time, maybe you would enjoy seeing one of the previous videos on fatherless behavior. I made separate videos for both of them, and this video more or less builds upon those. So if you haven't seen them already, be sure to check them out. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great one. Take care, my friends.